That's right, my friends, Retro Ups and Downs has returned. We are going to do the 1992 Royal Rumble, because one, as I do record this, we are in Royal Rumble season, and also when you do go back to this version of this pay-per-view, to this day, people still say it's the best. I will tell you what the best thing about it is that you hit play wherever the flub you want to watch this. You get that old school Royal Rumble intro. Now, it's a shame it is being narrated by Vince McMahon, but he just shouts the names of the Royal Rumble participants. So they all come like swishing on the screen, and he goes, Hulk Hogan, the Macho Man Randy Savage. It's like, what is the deal, Vince? Why are you so mad? Like, you really do get the impression that he is fed up that a bunch of his employees want to enter the Royal Rumble because it hits you so hard in the nostalgia gland. Well, I'm just going to tell you it's great. And given that we are doing all the retro stuff with Satellite's main event, well, listen, current WWE. If one year you want to copy this, please do. You also get Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon on commentary. That's when I was like, man, maybe this is the best Royal Rumble of all time. And of course, that's why we're doing this video. Apparently, only I can decide. I don't think that's true. It also comes from the Knickerbocker Arena, and I did not know that. And man, they pack in over 17,000 fans here. And listen, back in the day, that was a tremendous number, but it just goes to show you where the current WWE is, because the Royal Rumble 2025 has over 50,000 in the building. This is why we should all just sit back and enjoy pro wrestling, or for right now, we'll take the old school retro thinker of power. It is the 1992 Royal Rumble. Let's up those downs. And the first match is bizarre, all things considered, because even though a lot of people on this night were going to pull double duty, I guess even the WWF realized, well, we can't do that with everyone. So you get the new Foundation versus the Orient Express. Mr. Fuji is also in the corner of the Orient Express. Honestly, go and Google that guy. But the worst part about this is that it is Jim Neidhart and Owen Hart, and because they are a new version of the Hart Foundation, we have called them the New Foundation. But why did we drop the Hart bit? Owen Hart, Jimmy Anvil Neidhart. It's right there looking at you in the face. And if you call it the New Foundation, well, I'm just going to tell you, it sounds like makeup. I mean, even Anvil Hart would have been better than this. And trust me, that's the worst name I've ever said. Tanaka and Kato from the Orient Express also need to be talked about. Because yeah, you know, this is early 90s wrestling, so a lot of it is a lie. Because Kato is actually Paul Diamond, who in his real life was born in the former Yugoslavia. And for some reason, Vince McMahon went, well, what we're going to do is we're going to put you under a mask and pretend that you're from the Orient. I'm sorry, I've been thinking about this ever since I watched it. That doesn't make any sense. If you care to, poor Paul Diamond also had to be Max Moon. So he had a terrible WWF run. And listen, your major takeaway from this, as soon as the bell does go ding, 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 is Owen Hart. Because I tell you, I know we all know this deep down our Tootsie Toes, he is such a good wrestler, but he's so damn ahead of the game. He's doing Hurricane Ranas and he's doing dives, and I know that's par for the course in 2025, but this was like 35 years ago. It's totally brilliant. When Jim Neidhart gets the tag too, of course, he goes all power with shoulder tackles, and the poor Orient Express man, for a good 5 minutes, they are just getting murdered. Not even Fuji can do anything about it until, of course, he gets that stupid cane and he starts whacking people in the throat. And I was like, would you calm down, Fuji? Talk about mad escalation, at least whack somebody with it first. Of course, he's then casting distractions, so the Orient Express go proper old school tag team, and they use that to double team their opponents. Listen, the Orient Express and the Hart Foundation, the New Foundation, did have some very good matches in 1991. So I don't really know what happened came 1992, because it's fine. It's just sort of there. You also get Tanaka headbutting Owen Hart right in the penis, and the way Mr. Fuji reacts to that, I mean, he must have taught them it, and he really enjoys seeing people get hit in the testicles. The damn referee also misses the Jim Neidhart tag, so of course the fans are going crazy, when we went and screwed Owen Hart over again. Because he is thrown right into that cane, which begs the question, why is this cane still out at ringside? Do you think this is the first time it's ever happened in a match? No, it's not. There's somebody called Jack Tunney, because this is BS. Thankfully, Hart did have his feet, so he was able to double drop kick these guys. He gets the hot tag to the anvil, and even though it is 1992, he runs wild. I mean, all he really does is more tackles and slams, but if it's working for you, why not? This is when Owen does do that dive, ahead of the game. It basically kills the Orient Express too when they hit the rocket launcher, which is essentially one man throwing another man at a third man. And the referee finally does his job. 1, 2, 3. So this is as stereotypical as it got for a tag team match in the WWF in the early 90s, but it's fine as an opener, and the real joy, of course, is seeing Owen Hart in action. And this isn't really the start of his career, but he still hadn't hit the peak. But my word, that dude had all the potential in the world, and he's brilliant here too. I'm giving it an up, mostly for that reason. We then flash back to a few days prior to this, where we see the Mountie taking on Bret Hart. And oh my gosh, the Canadian policeman, I guess that's what we call it, he won the Intercontinental title. It was also with the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, surprise roll-up, but he also held the tights. So some things never change. Now the story here was that Bret Hart was suffering with the flu, so why was he even competing to begin with? And because his best buddy Roddy Piper had come out afterwards to say, Bret, are you okay? Do we have to go and see the doctor? The Mountie quite clearly didn't care about health, because he smashed the Rowdy one with the Intercontinental title. Let's do a match at the Royal Rumble. And now listen, the Mountie was actually quite fun as a daft early 90s character, and Roddy Piper was Roddy Piper, but this match is really weird. Now if I was going to break it down, I would presume the WWF had decided, right, we need to get this belt to Roddy Piper, but we don't want to take it off Bret Hart and give it to him because we want to do that at WrestleMania, so we have to give it to somebody else in the meantime, and they chose the Mountie. But then you get to this match, which again only happens a few days after the Mountie had become the champ, and I tell you, Piper just whoops this guy's ass. Now the Mountie is able to throw Piper into the turnbuckle over and over again, so once again the more things change, the more they stay the same. When Roddy Piper busts out a sunset flip, you forget how young he was. What does that mean? He also hits the atomic drop, so that's been lost to time, much like my hair. When I realised, look, Jimmy Hart is on the outside of the ring with the Mountie, so we're only on match 2, and we have had 3 Harts. Now actually, technically it's 4, because Bret Hart is mentioned. This is when he gets on the ring apron. No reason whatsoever. I don't even think the Mountie was in trouble. The Mountie doesn't see him. He accidentally knocks him off the apron when he's like, oh no, I can't believe it. So Roddy Piper's like, screw it. He applies the sleeper, and the move does its job. The Mountie goes to sleep. That's that. We got a brand new IC champ. We know this doesn't go more than 5 minutes, and the big story here is that it's the first ever singles title Roddy Piper ever won in the WWF, and yes, we already talked about it. This was going to go on to that WrestleMania, where we would do Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper. Here's a spoiler. If you don't want spoilers from 1992, that is really good. And so sure, Roddy kind of wrecks this dude, but it is a very nice moment at the end, and these fans go crazy for it. Give it an up. Of course, Jimmy Hart afterwards then tries to attack Roddy Piper with a cattle prod, because maybe he'd come back in time after talking to Scott Hall. But this is the best. Roddy gets the cattle prod, he throws Jimmy Hart out the ring when he to the Mountie, and the reason I make that noise is because the WWF played it over the PA. Now, of course, it's just a sound effect, but if you watch wrestling and you like to think that it's real or on the up, that would mean this is the loudest cattle prod of all time. It is history in many ways, and afterwards we do cut to interviews with the Hulk Hogan and the Bushwhackers. I did need to throw a "the" in there. And listen, I don't think this aired on the broadcast. I think this was strictly for home video. The different time. Amazingly, they basically cut the same interview too, all like, oh man, we're going to win the tag team titles, or oh man, it's every man for themselves. And I tell you what the connection is, they are most definitely on coke. What? I didn't say anything. Luke and Butch are getting ready to fight the Beverly brothers too, and of course their manager was the genius, so he just turns up and recites a poem. Now, I would implore you to go out and watch this, because it is one of the strangest things I've ever seen in my life. So I swear that somebody must have taken drugs before all this when we do get to that match, and the Bushwhackers come out with Jameson. I was like, who the flub is Jameson? Now, I had no recollection of this guy being connected with the Bushwhackers, so I don't know what's happened to my brain. But as it turned out, he was part of the short-lived Bobby Heenan talk show, and when that was done, the WWF went, you know what? You can just go and hang out with Luke and Butch. I mean, of all the teams that didn't need a manager, and almost instantly, Luke is being choked on the ropes, and what is Jameson doing? Absolutely nothing. You're out there to help. Turned out, though, he was picking his nose with a sock. Not making that up, that's what the camera cuts to, and there he is, being a bit of a disgusting human being. So I say, more for Luke and Butch for employing this guy. He is quite clearly not very good at his job. Bo Beverly then takes advantage of this too, because he starts poking people in the eye. And I was like, well, that just makes you a bit of a shit. Brothers then take Luke and hurl him into Teen of the Turnbuckle over and over again, which is the exact same spot we saw in the first match, or the second match I should say. This is when Blake tags in, and he does it again, so he's Britney Spears. The Genius then walks up to Jameson, just slaps him right round the face for no reason, honestly, once again. Unless, you just want to laugh at the state of pro wrestling, I really would not watch this match. Blake Beverly then hits 2 neck breakers because he's very selfish. Luke just totally ignores this. All of a sudden he's like, oh, you know what, I am okay. He comes flying out of the corner with a clothesline, and of course he gets the hot tag. The thing is though, once again, the crowd go absolutely crazy for Butch. I mean, I just think they were invested in all of this show, which is perfectly fine. I mean, you could have tagged a llama in. They would have gone, oh, it's a llama. Now, Butch is able to use the brothers against each other, but that's when Bo decides he doesn't want that, and he starts tripping people when Luke tries to get involved. But I think that little bit of effort must have depleted his HP bar. Because this is when Bo gets the double axe handle, and Blake does help out with the pin. But yeah, like I've already talked about, Luke is just dead, so he doesn't do anything, and the ref counts 1, 2, 3. I was like, listen, I know the official rules, but I imagine this isn't kosher. So while it is amazing that a double axe handle essentially won a match, this is not good wrestling fighting. It is all over the place, and while I do very much enjoy the shtick of the Bushwhackers, especially their dumb dance, seriously, I've watched this. You never need to watch this. It has to get it down. We then, of course, repeat everything we had done earlier because the Bushwhackers used the battering ram to take out the Beverly brothers, which also allows Jameson to get his revenge on the Genius. And it's a bit like, well, I've kind of seen movies that have better revenge scenes than this. It's your fault, Jameson. Once again, you were picking your nose with a sock. The tag team scene then does get super serious, though, because the Legion of Doom are here, and they are cutting a promo. Animal just shouts to the camera, we can't lose. I was like, well, I'm glad you figured it out. Hawk also thinks the natural disasters their opponents will make people sick when he says something along the lines, when we're done with you, you're gonna look like dead deer. Once again, I've been pondering that all day. What does it even mean? The hard counter then returns as well because Jimmy Hart is back out again with the natural disasters, but honestly, out come the essentially brand new tag team champions, the Legion of Doom. Let's just call it how it is. They get a Road Warrior pop, obviously. Now, even though you could argue that Earthquake and Typhoon should probably be treated like the bigger guys in this match, Animal and Hawk just run through them for a while. Well, I think Animal goes, man, I forgot about my ring psychology, and he tries to slam Earthquake, but of course the Quake is too big, and he squishes him. Earthquake then decides he's gonna go full splash when Typhoon is like, well, I'm gonna use the backbreakers. When you know what came next, the dreaded bear hug. Honestly, the WWF and most wrestling loved this back in the 90s, and you still do get it today, but I think after a while everyone gets tired. So it is just like we're giving each other a cuddle. This is on Hawk as well, so he should be offended because he's most definitely a bird. I already told you that Earthquake loved these splashes. It's the same thing we do today with big guys. Eventually he misses, Hawk smashes him right in the head. Hot tag to Animal. The shoulder tackle he hits coming out of this duel. Well, let's just break it right down. I think he forgot what wrestling is. It is the same with the double clothesline that just flattens the natural disasters when Hawk decides, you know what, I'm gonna go up to the tippity top, and he flies to the outside. Everybody was scrapping out there when Animal gets splattered right into the ground, and I could imagine their adrenaline is so high they forgot about the rules, apart from Typhoon. He's a stickler for those. So he looks left, he looks right, and he goes, well, I'm just gonna get in the ring, as he gives the thumbs up to the referee, who just so happens to go 10. So that's right, the Legion of Doom lost via countout. So as always, even though Earthquake and Typhoon get the win, they're not allowed to win the belts because that's just not how it works. And while there is a certain charm to this, that finish is so deflated. Of course, the Legion of Doom then go and beat them up afterwards, which WWF has essentially done in every single match after the bell when they celebrate. Their music plays. I was like, bros, I don't think you should be very happy. You just took an L. So I'm gonna be that guy here. It is just so over the top and ridiculous, and my gosh, the nostalgia killed me. I am gonna give it an up. But yeah, I bet if you had bought this on pay-per-view, you would have been so livid. It was basically like, we ain't doing shib, son. Getting it down. I think we get more video interviews after this as well because we do cut the natural disasters and they're all like, we should be champion because we won the match. It's like, that's not how it works. That's like me going, well, I should still have hair because I want it. You just have to follow life. Roddy Piper also craps over the IC title because he's like, well, now I've won this one. Maybe I can become the world champion. He's basically hinting that he will enter the Royal Rumble. When a Shawn Mooney is interviewing Shawn Michaels, which is actually very interesting because just week before this, he had super kicked Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window. History. He is really leaning into his sexiness, which is a very interesting way to put it, but that's what he is doing, when Ric Flair tells Sean Mooney, you know what, I have drawn number 3, but I feel like I'm gonna win. And yes, from nowhere, I'm just gonna throw an up onto that board, because you do get the big intro video for the Royal Rumble, and of course we're talking about Jake Roberts, we're talking about the Macho Man, we're talking about Hulk Hogan, but do you know who squeezes in there with his catch line too? It's the Repo Man. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about him later. But I was doing the dance of joy. Repo Man is getting up. Howard Finkel then goes through the Royal Rumble rules because you never know who is watching. Well, yeah, it is time for the 1992 Royal Rumble. Now, do not forget the importance of this one too, and I think it's a reason people do still talk about it. The WWF title was on the line. And I'm pretty sure it was only the 2016 Rumble that did this again. So yeah, it feels really, really novel. Because it's so early on in the existence of this match too, the WWF keeps it so simple. Because the British Bulldog, a super babyface, is out at number 1, and a mega heel Ted DiBiase is out at number 2. That'll do. I also believe this is the Rumble when beforehand, Davey Boy Smith was entering the arena, and he said to a Roman cameraman, I will win the Royal Rumble because I'm bizarre. Now again, this happened in 1992, and I'm still trying to figure out what that meant. I really don't know. It must have helped him though, because within 90 seconds, he grabs the $1 Million Man and he eliminates him. And Sensational Sherry, who had come out with Ted, I tell you, she has a breakdown. Of course, Ric Flair is in at number 3, but don't forget the interview that we see didn't happen on the live broadcast. And Bobby Heenan, he also goes totally nuts here, because again, this is old school commentary, and he was Ric Flair's friend, so he even says, listen, I am going to be super biased, I want him to win. It is an up though, because I tell you, so many people say the art of the heel commentator is lost in 2025, and while I don't agree with that, there is nobody even close with the brain. And in terms of the emotion that you want in the match, especially when you go back to it, so much of it comes from him. He paints this entire picture, the damn legend, up. Gorilla Monsoon is part of this as well, because as soon as Rick does walk out, he goes, ha ha, nobody's ever won the Rumble from positions 1 through 5. So again, this is another positive of the early Rumbles. You can tell those stories. Before Jerry Sags, the Nasty Boys in at 4, Rick is already selling his ass off, pretending that he is going to get eliminated. But I tell you, clearly Jerry had decided, well, if I'm not going to win, I may as well get thrown out, because he lasts about 2 seconds, and Bulldog gets rid of him. Haku is number 5, which is awful for Davey Boy, because now he is the only good guy in this. So yeah, everybody just beats him up until Haku realizes, listen, I'm not a good guy, I'm not a bad guy, I'm just a tough guy. He punches Flair right in the face. Flair then decides he's gonna bail because he is so scared, as Heenan's like, yes, just do that for the whole match. So I will say this, we need more biased commentary in the modern day. Entrance 6 is actually quite amazing because it is Shawn Michaels. One of the first things he does is super kick Rick right in the face, but nobody reacts. You wanna know why? Because in 1992, the Sweet Chin Music wasn't his finisher. Tito Santana is in at 7 with the Barbarian in at number 8. Once again, Heenan can't handle any of this, because apparently Tito is not good for Ric Flair because he's a goody 2 shows, and neither is the Barbarian, because of course the Barbarian is really big. The Texas Tornado in at number 9 is super difficult because of course I'm sure you have watched the Iron Claw recently, and that just reminded you, within a year of this, Kerry Von Erich was going to be dead. I mean, that is some sad, sad, tragic stuff. Thankfully, at least for me, number 10 completely turns it around, because honestly, I jumped off my seat because I am a moron. Here came Repo Man. Now, some people still don't get my love for this gimmick, but it's nice and simple. When I was a young fetus, for some reason, Repo Man taught me, oh my gosh, we can do whatever we want in wrestling, as long as everybody agrees. And isn't that just the most fun thing ever? The answer is yes. So I am gonna stand that forever, and of course, I have to give it an up. Like, honestly, it made me so happy, which is the point of sports entertainment. Number 11 was Greg the Hammer Valentine, which did kind of tie into a story with Ric Flair, because they had basically hated each other since the NWA days, apart from a short tag team run in like 1979. Clearly Greg remembered this too, because in about 8 seconds, he had put the figure 4 on Ric Flair, and again, you can see why Ric Flair is considered one of the best of all time. He once again sells his butt off. Number 12 is Nikolai Volkov, which always remember is a man pretending to be a Russian, but he doesn't last any time at all, because Repo Man throws him out. I don't remember that. I must have eliminated from my brain. It is getting it up. Once again, I popped. And then lost my mind, because after the Big Boss Man arrives at number 13, Repo Man also tosses Greg the Hammer Valentine. So don't you walk into my house and tell me Repo was a jobber. Exhibit A. My heart soon broke after this though, because the Boss Man did use that as a distraction. And he throws out Repo Man. Now, I do find this very difficult because I'm also a huge fan of the Big Boss Man. But the good news is that rhymes, so everything's going to be okay. Flair also then eliminates Davey Boy Smith, and that is sold as this huge thing because, of course, he has been in since the beginning. And he does the same to the Texas Tornado. So we are starting to tell some tales. Michaels and Tito then throw each other out, which kind of sums up where we were in 1992. When our next entrant is Hercules. Because I'm a nerd, I was like, imagine it was actually the Hercules from Greek mythology. I mean, let's face it, he probably would have won. In a proper every man for himself moment too, he does throw out the Barbarian, who was meant to be his friend. And again, I'm repeating myself, but it is true. It just felt like such a big deal in 1992, because it was only like the 5th ever Rumble, so all these things felt fresh. The Boss Man then gets rid of him too, so it is just down to the Big Boss Man versus Ric Flair. I don't know why this felt like such a big deal, but it does. Sadly for the cop from County Georgia though, he runs at Flair, who ducks, and the Big Boss Man takes a tumble. And this is awesome, because it means the Nature Boy is now standing by himself when Gorilla Monsoon is like, Bob, I wouldn't get too excited. He still has 16 people to get through. Such a good line. It's also awesome because Flair then does his flop in the middle of the ring. And at number 15, do you know who it is? Roddy Piper. They had history too. And of course, he was the IC champion. This crowd comes alive. Jake Roberts is number 16, so we have totally leveled up. He is swiftly followed by number 17, which is Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the winner of the first ever Royal Rumble. Then number 18 is IRS, somebody else that I love. Because do not forget, within the world of wrestling law, IRS had decided, I am so desperate for people to pay their taxes, I'm going to become a wrestler and enter the Royal Rumble. Jimmy Snuka is number 19 and The Undertaker is number 20. And again, put it in your brains, he'd only been around a couple of years, so everybody was like, well, who the hell's going to throw him out? He's too big. He also throws out Jimmy really quickly, so that feels like a big deal. And 21 just sends the fans loopy, because not only is it the Macho Man Randy Savage, but he is feuding with Jake Roberts at the time, and he makes a beeline for this guy. But Jake goes and hides, and bless Macho. He's like, well, where the hell does he go? So in terms of the GOAT of being really weird in Royal Rumble matches, you gotta give it to Randy Savage. Randy then realizes he just needs to push The Undertaker out of the way to get to Roberts, and these two get into it. And honestly, Randy Savage is able to eliminate Jake Roberts when he goes to the top rope, and he throws himself at the man. So at the time, you're like, did he just eliminate himself from the Rumble now again? Because it is an early Rumble. Everyone just decides, no, you have to be forcibly ejected from the ring by somebody else. But look at the referees and listen to the commentators. I think the Macho Man may have done this on instinct, and because he was needed in the match, we just forgot about it. The Royal Rumble is the best. The next thing you see too is Ric Flair whamming The Undertaker right in the penis, and the dead man no-sells this. So there's some more wrestling lore for you too. If you hit The Undertaker in the groin, he doesn't care. The Berserker is in at number 22 and Virgil is in at number 23. Look, I want to be horrible too, Virgil. He did make quite the career for himself, but nobody in this building thinks he's able to win. Colonel Mustafa is out at number 24. Yes, this was the Iron Sheik, pretending to be an Iraqi, which is as bad as it does sound. And Rick Martel is in at number 25, which opens the door up for a conversation. Why the hell doesn't he get more praise today? The model was really, really good. Ric Flair is just continually hanging on for dear life here as he continues to tease that he is going to get thrown out, when Randy decides, you know what, Mustafa, you've got to go. So the Iron Sheik lasts about a minute. Number 26 is Hulk Hogan, and of course, given the time period, everybody loses their mind. And guess what the first thing he does is? Single-handedly, he gets rid of The Undertaker, because that works for me, brother. He also back body drops the Berserker to the floor as Duggan and Virgil eliminate each other. I didn't see that coming. Just felt a little bit weird. Skinner is at number 27. This is such a weird gimmick, which is summed up by Gorilla Monsoon. He says, here comes the Alligator Man. What? The ring is just heaving at this point, so out comes Sergeant Slaughter at number 28. It's just so hard to take this guy seriously because, of course, the year before, he too had been an Iraqi sympathizer and won the WWF title. Let's close our eyes and never think about this again. Skinner then gets got as Sid Justice is in at number 29, and I tell you, the early 90s is just peak Sid Justice era. Even when he's walking to the ring, you're like, man, you don't want to mess with that guy. It also goes to show you how early the format still is, because number 30 is the Warlord. And listen, there's nothing wrong with the Warlord, but if you did the equivalent today, people would go nuts. Sid's elimination to Sergeant Slaughter is crazy as well, because he whips him so hard into Tina the turnbuckle, Slaughter kind of can't get his momentum, he goes flying over the top. He then goes to throw Savage as well, and when he can't do it, it's Ric Flair that sneaks in and makes sure that we do get it done. This is why this Royal Rumble is so damn good. We are telling stories towards WrestleMania. Those two were gonna fight. Sid is just on fire too, because he then turns around and he eliminates Hulk Hogan, which is a huge shock. And talk about the past, kind of mimicking the present day. Do you know what the fans do when Hogan does land on the floor? They cheer. Whoops. Now Hulk is livid at this because he thought him and Sid were meant to be friends, but Justice is like, listen you buffoon, it's every man for himself. But they are arguing with Hulk Hogan on the outside and Sid on the inside. This is when Hulk Hogan proves he's a piece of trash because he grabs Sid's arm and starts to pull him out of the ring. When Ric Flair goes, well, if that's gonna happen, I'm gonna help. He pushes Sid Justice, he falls to the floor, he gets eliminated because Hulk Hogan should have gone heel here, because that's a treacherous thing to do, when everyone realizes, wait a minute, that was the last guy, meaning Ric Flair just won the damn Royal Rumble. And this was massive too, because of course it would influence all future Royal Rumbles, where you could be eliminated and yet still do some eliminating. It's 2 + 2 = potato. It never makes any sense, but for some reason I love it, never change. It also means that Ric Flair is the last man standing and the WWF champion. And not only does he sell this with emotion, but Bobby Heenan basically has tears in his eyes. It is so damn good. It's also a huge deal that you'd only really be able to understand if you were around in 1992, because Ric Flair was like the proverbial WCW champion. And now he was the guy in the World Wrestling Federation. We are no longer in Texas anymore, Toto. That ain't the line at all. Mr. Perfect is also out to escort Flair to the back. They were about to do one of the most iconic promos of all time. If you haven't seen that, check it out today. You also end with Sid Justice and Hulk Hogan yelling at each other, because that was going to be the WrestleMania main event. I just tell you now, it's a total farce. This is one of the reasons this Rumble is all time though, because not only did we just turn Ric Flair into an even bigger star than he already was, which was basically impossible, but it was loaded with star power, and we just told so many stories leading to WrestleMania. It also got me excited for the 2025 Rumble, because again, in terms of the roster, that one is right up there. And honestly, I've watched this, I don't know, for what, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th time, and it's still as good now as it was back then. So it doesn't just get an up, it gets a golden up. I mean, it's actually quite hard to find it these days, given how much the streaming service world has changed. You may even have to get it on DVD, but it's out there, my friends, and if you consider yourself a wrestling historian, you probably need to watch it. I mean, it's just drowning in nostalgia, which is why overall I am going to give it an up, even though most of the matches you can totally ignore. But what does it say on the box? The Royal Rumble. So long as you do hit a home run with that, well, most fans are going to be happy. Now, of course, if you have recently watched the Royal Rumble, make sure you drop me a comment below, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And I shall put another retro ups and downs on the screen right now, so you can click that to continue down your path on memory lane. But mostly, I love you, my friends. Enjoy the Royal Rumble. See you soon.